The Senate will come to order. Senator Jasinski.
Madam President, I impose.
Senator Jasinski.
Madam President, I impose a call of the Senate.
Call the Senate. Senator Miller.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that further proceedings under the roll call be dispensed with and the Sergeant-at-Arms be instructed to bring in the absent members.
On that motion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion prevails. Secretary will close the roll. And members, we are going to please stand for the prayer. We are going to be having today Reverend Richard Buller from Valley Community Presbyterian Church in Golden Valley. And remember that following the prayer, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Loving Creator, I give you thanks for this opportunity to lift up this body, these senators from our great state of Minnesota. The challenges they have faced during the past 2 years of the pandemic have been huge. And so this morning I ask you to give them all a huge dose of patience and strength, oh God. As these 67 elected officials make their decisions today, remind them, oh God, how many of your people depend upon their wisdom to better their lives and to brighten their tomorrows. And as always, loving God, may civility be a part of this body. And may these leaders continue to follow the rule, the golden rule, the one rule we find in all religions around the world, to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. May this chamber, O God, be a source of hope and assistance to your people. May this chamber create a new sense of peace and justice for all citizens of Minnesota. Again, loving Creator, may this chamber today serve your people with energy and intelligence and imagination and love. In this we ask your continued help, for this is our prayer this morning. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Secretary will take the roll.
Senators Abler, Anderson, Bach, Benson, Bigham, Carlson, Chamberlain, Champion, Clausen, Coleman, Swazinski, Dames, Dibble, Dornick, Draheim, Duckworth, Dietzig, Eaton, Eichhorn, Eakin, Fateh, Friends, Gazelka, Goggin, Herr, Hoffman, Housley, Howe, Ingebrigtsen, Isaacson, Jasinski, Johnson, Stewart, Kent, Kiffmeyer, Klein, Coran, Kunish, Lang, Latz, Limmer, Lopez, Franzen, Marty, Matthews, McEwen, Miller, Murphy, Nelson, Newman, Newton, Osmic, Pappas, Port, Pratt, Putnam, Rarick, Rest, Rosen, Rude, Senjum, Tomasoni, Torres Ray, Utke, Weber, Westrom, Uyghur, Wickland.
Pursuant to Rule 14.1, the following members intend to vote under Rule 40.7. Senators Abler, Anderson, Benson, Coleman, Gazelka, Ingebrigtsen, Johnson, Stewart, Newton, Port, and Tomasoni. Quorum is present. Beginning under the third order of business, messages from the House. The Secretary will read the message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce that the House has acceded to the request of the Senate for an appointment of a conference committee consisting of 5 members of the House on the amendments adopted by the House of the following Senate file. Senate file number 2677, a bill for an act relating to unemployment insurance. There has been appointed as such committee on the part of the House Pawlowski, Noer, Frazier, Greenman, and Baker. Senate file number 2677 is herewith returned to the Senate. Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
No action is required. The Secretary will read the next message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the passage by the House of the following House file herewith transmitted. House file number 4293. Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
No action is required. We move to the fourth order of business, first reading of House bills. The House file will be given its first reading and referred as indicated. I'm sorry. You got to read. Moving to the eighth order of business, introduction and first reading of Senate bills. The bills on today's introduction calendar are given their first reading and referred as indicated. Moving to the ninth order of business, we will adopt the author's motions in one motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to Rule 26, I designate the following bill made special orders for immediate consideration. Members, the list is on your desk.
There is one file on special orders. It is House File 436698 on general orders. Senator Westrom.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, first of all, there's an A2 amendment. Why don't I move the A2 amendment, and then I'll explain the bill.
The Secretary will read the amendment.
Senator Westrom moves to amend Senate File number 4019 as follows. Page 5, line 23, after the period insert. This is the A2 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, members, the A2 is a technical change to some of the areas that staff has revised or caught as it's moved through the process. So I just urge your adoption of it, and then we can explain the bill.
Further discussion to the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. The A2 amendment is adopted. Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, members, this is the Agriculture, Rural Broadband, and Housing Bill that is a supplemental budget bill, but very significant to some aspects of our agriculture community. With avian flu hitting our state this spring, other viruses in livestock, ASF, African swine fever, not in the U.S. yet, but it's been a continual concern for our pork producers. And so this bill addresses some of those issues in agriculture, as well as significantly a historic opportunity to build out more rural broadband, border to border, finishing out the last 8% of underserved and unserved areas of our state. And so I urge your support of this bill so we can make that monumental investment, generational change across our entire state. But members, the agriculture portion, first of all, is $5 million of a supplemental budget. Of the $5 million, we're talking $1.7 million towards meat cutting, advancing what the Senate led the way on last year to help our producers, meat cutters, our livestock farmers that have niche markets, using local meat markets to process their animals, sell them direct, or the small Main Street meat markets that are struggling to find the right enough employees, sometimes expanding their plants or updating them. And so we've had some small grants to help facilitate that, encourage that. Coming out of COVID, we all saw how close the meat supply and the food chain really could be impacted in a hurry, and bottlenecks at the meat processing level are key to avoid, to have more facilities to be able to process that part of the meat. And so 1.7 towards that, $1 million of those would be to grants to high schools, to our schools that are asking us for one-time grants, about $70,000 to help buy meat cutting equipment so they can incorporate in their ag programs, in their curriculum, the opportunity for students, juniors and seniors in high school, to get exposure to this meat cutting industry and find a pathway for more career opportunities in meat cutting. And it all fits into what Senator Rude and Senator Gazelka and others brought bills forward. Up in Central Lakes, we established a curriculum. They're now also establishing a curriculum for meat cutting in Wilmer at their Central Lakes College. And so what we did last year is already bearing fruit, bearing results of growth and opportunity in this meat cutting career. So we invest in that with this supplemental budget significantly. Some of this is the governor's proposal. Some of this is Senate Ag Committee proposals that we had brought to us. It's also $1 million to help relief for our struggling family deer farmers with some of the regulatory orders that have been put in place to help in a small way cover some of those expenses they've incurred because of regulatory actions that impacted them significantly. Senator Lang, Senator Johnson, others have heard from their deer farms, and this is a small way to address some of those expenses. It's by no way a complete assistance for what they've lost or been damaged, but it's a significant amount for those family farms as well, engaging in that niche agriculture opportunity. Our Senate Agriculture has been very strong in supporting specialty crop farmers, traditional farmers, livestock farmers, and all the array of agriculture opportunity. And we think that's a healthy economy to be diversified and be embracing of many different types of agriculture opportunities. And I'll address a couple more in this bill as we go through. $500,000 to help with some cost overruns with the soy crushing plant with biofuels up in the northwest part of the state that we invested one-time dollars a couple of years ago. They are under construction. They are building the soy campus up there. It's an exciting opportunity for advancing research and advancing more biofuel opportunities. Soybean crushing up in the northwest that 30 years ago didn't even really grow soybeans, but that's how much the crops have changed and where they have transitioned to in the upper Red River Valley. And so it helps that corner of the state, but ultimately all the farmers, an initiative of the soybean growers that they have been working on statewide for quite a while. Another $500,000 towards emergency assistance response with the avian influenza that I've talked about. We passed an emergency bill right before the Easter recess. This is an additional $500,000 that would go towards those efforts, members. Another $350,000 in the VDL funding, the Veterinary Diagnostic Lab. Members, these upgrades are to help expand rapid testing response for any sort of agriculture virus outbreak, avian influenza being one of them. ASF, as I talked about, if it would hit our state, we need to be ready, we need to be prepared, and time is money. If you can respond quicker or have a greater capacity with newer equipment, that's what some of this investment would do. Another $300,000 towards AURI equipment that they use to help develop new markets, new opportunities for these for agriculture, whether it's traditional or specialty niches. Members, as I talked before, we embrace a variety of agriculture opportunities for farmers, whether it's a traditional corn and beans, livestock, traditional livestock, or niche markets. We need, and we have room for all of that in our state, and we have a lot of great entrepreneurs, great motivated farmers and family farmers that want to stay on the farm and find ways to do it. If they don't have a lot of land, they might be able to make a sufficient family income on a small number of acres by niche farming, specialty crops, find animals or livestock or other types of ways to market their products directly. And that's what AURI helps them develop and find those niche markets, do the right kind of testing so they can develop those products. Another $300,000 for the African farmers. There's a proposal Senator Cran, Senator Herr, and others have talked to us about with an opportunity for different groups, emerging farmers that want to be part of that specialty crop, part of that niche farming opportunity we have here in the state of Minnesota. And members, a couple last things, $200,000 towards the Forever Green program, dealing with cover crops, in some cases, in many cases, traditional crops blended in with cover crops, Forever Green, some of those products, cover crops growing right between the corn and soybean rows, and limiting or lessening the tillage that goes on, capturing maybe a second crop, or having healthy soils with the cover crops. That's $200,000 to the Forever Green program, and another $100,000 between the Ag BMP and other cover crop incentives that we have funded in this bill. And lastly, on the agriculture side, members, another $330,000 in some training grants for the meat processors, Senator Rarick's bill. Another study that Senator Murphy brought to our committee dealing with foods and giving a report back to find where there maybe is some opportunities to even grow some other types of specialty crop or markets in the state. And so that report is also funded in here. Lastly, members, rural broadband, before I turn it over to Senator Draheim for the housing part. Rural broadband has been a huge focus of the state Senate and rural and metro members alike. Mainly, broadband has been built out in the metro areas a lot more than rural, but we have done a great job, and we have great providers in our state that have partnered with us with the rural broadband program. We have tried to make that a significant investment and an opportunity. And members, this is one of those programs, most programs, have a mission, and when the mission is accomplished, the program could go away. And so that would be a real measurement of success in our rural broadband program. And I know I've talked to those in the program and others in leadership, and that's the goal. Let's not need the program anymore. And so if we could invest and get the state built out border to border, we could accomplish that mission. And with the federal money that once in a generation is probably the opportunity we are looking at right now. And this bill allocates the federal dollars, $110 million from the American Recovery Act, but also an additional $100 million under the infrastructure bill that was passed, allowed to be used for border-to-border or high-speed broadband installation. And members, let's take this opportunity, make that significant investment, add to the $70 million we put into the rural broadband program last year, and be nation leading. The Minnesota Senate can be nation leading on focusing this $210 million of federal money for one of its great intended purposes. And let's not have it siphoned off onto other potential allowable expenses. Let's meet the need that we know is out there, build out the unserved and underserved areas before we start looking at other ways to do it. And I have made the analogy many times over. There are parts of Minnesota that does not have a road built to it yet, i.e. high-speed internet. Let's get everybody a road before we start worrying about what kind of cars should be driven on the road or what other kinds of devices should be put on the internet. Let's get everybody connected first, and then we can talk about other opportunities once we have everybody a road, i.e. high-speed internet to their rural areas or any area in the state that is not served with high-speed internet. And so, members, we can enthusiastically support this bill, be nation leading, and really take a significant, a major step towards building out the rural broadband in our state. And let's be proud of that, and I urge your support. And Mr. President, I'd turn it over to Senator Draheim to walk through the housing provisions with his committee that have been a part of this bill as well.
Before we move to Senator Draheim, Senator Bach.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I've got an amendment to the ag portion. I think it would probably be wise to take that before we go to housing. So, Mr. President, I move the A4 amendment.
Senator Bach moves the A4 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Bach moves to amend Senate File Number 4019 as follows, page 36, line 19, strike 2022. This is the A4 amendment.
To the A4 amendment, Senator Bach.
Mr. President, a little over a year ago, the state was in negotiations with a wood products company that wanted to build a plant in northeastern Minnesota. And as a result of putting that whole financing package together and the state landing that plant, we offered, this legislature authored a production incentive, much like we did for the ethanol plants when that industry was developing. It was a total of $30 million over 10 years. The challenge that we're facing is we had hoped to be in construction by the fall of 22, but the process of doing the environmental assessment worksheet took longer than we thought. The administration has decided to have some public hearings on the project, even though it's not required in law, so the project has been delayed some. We believe it's still going to happen, but the challenge with the production incentive that we put in law was, in law, we said they had to start construction in 2022 and then start producing product in 2025. So those timelines may work, but likely will not work. So what the amendment does is just moves the construction start out into sometime in 2023 and then moves the startup of actual producing product into 2026. So just move 2 dates on language that we passed last year.
To the A4 amendment, discussion. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the A4 amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. The amendment is adopted. Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the A3 amendment.
Senator Bingham moves the A3 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Bingham moves to amend House File Number 4366 as amended pursuant to Rule 45. This is page 35 after line 7. Insert this is the A3 amendment.
To the A3 amendment, Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd request a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Bingham.
Thank you. On the environment bill, we had an extensive conversation of CWD, and I have come back for a third time on this, trying to get something on this very important topic through the finish line and into conference. The A3 amendment is similar to that of the second amendment we did last year. This does not allow new registrations for white-tailed deer for the Servet Farm, but it doesn't prohibit the family member issue who resides in the state, and it prohibits the importation of white-tailed deer, and the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association does support this. I did speak to them this morning and yesterday afternoon. I would appreciate a green vote.
Discussion to the A3 amendments. Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, members, I would urge a no vote on this amendment. I talked about how we have been embracing of agricultural opportunities for family farms across our state. This would prohibit those farms, deer farmers, to exist, expand, or pass it down to their sons and daughters. And so, members, very similar to a bill amendment that was brought on the floor last week, let's embrace the opportunities of agriculture that we have across our state and the innovation that our farmers on the land do such a great job of finding ways to earn their incomes, change and find areas that they can fit the market. And so, members, I would urge a no vote on this amendment.
Senator Bingham.
Mr. President, I just want to correct what was just said. It does not prohibit a person from holding a valid registration under this subdivision from selling or transferring the person's registration to a family member who resides in the state. And yes, I agree we have to do more with family farms, which is why we need to encourage more on the hemp family farming as well. Hemp has not been discussed at all this year in this bill, and it is lacking, but let's focus on CWD for the time being, and please vote green.
Senator Marty.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I wanted to just clarify the same thing that Senator Bigham just said, and that is that Senator Westrom said you couldn't even pass it on to your family, and this amendment clearly allows that. Again, this is not a radical proposal when we've had 12 of the less than 200 deer farms that have had CWD infections. That destroys the entire herd. We've got to do something about this. This is a very reasonable amendment. Urge your support.
Senator Rood.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Bigham yield for a question?
She will yield. Senator Rood.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Bigham, can you just maybe speak to make sure I understand this portion correctly? So this only prohibits someone from importing a deer from a state that already is infected, and the deer has to be tested, if it is, to be negative, and to tag onto that. So this does not preclude any of our farms from moving the deer within the state of Minnesota from a deer farm, nor does it prohibit. We have some peripheral businesses that do like scents, and so they would still. This doesn't prohibit any of that kind of commerce. Senator
Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Rood. I forgot to talk about that. You are correct, 100%. It does not, must not import cervix from a herd originating from a state or province where CWD has been detected, or either farmed or wild cervix. It has to have testing. You're right. And so I apologize for not getting into that level of detail, but you are correct.
Senator Rood.
And Mr. President, if Senator Bigham would yield for the second half of that question.
She will yield. Senator Rood.
Thank you, Senator Bigham. And the other part of that question was, can the businesses that are doing business now, can they move the deer from, like, I know we have concurrent management with the Animal Board of Health and the DNR, so they still would be able to move the deer from a farm under the current regulations, but it doesn't prohibit them from doing business within the state and moving the deer herd. Is that correct?
Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, Senator Rood, that is correct.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion to the A3 amendment. Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll on the A3 amendment. I call on Senator Jasinski to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Abler votes nay.
Abler votes no, nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Anderson votes nay.
Anderson votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Benson votes nay.
Benson votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes nay.
Coleman votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Gazelka votes nay.
Gazelka votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes nay.
Ingebrigtsen votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Thomasoni votes nay.
Thomasoni votes nay. Call on Senator Friends to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Friends.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. I report Senator Fateh votes aye.
Fateh votes aye. Senator Friends.
I report Senator Johnson Stewart votes aye.
Johnson Stewart votes aye. Senator Friends.
I report Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Friends.
And I report Senator Port votes aye.
Port votes aye.
Mr. President,
Senator Kent.
I believe there's not supposed to be any conversation on the floor while the board is still open.
Senator Kent, it is allowed to have conversations in between desks, but we should not be going further than that. Point well taken. Senator Jasinski.
Mr. President, just want to clarify one vote. Can you hang on 1 second, please?
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Abler votes yes.
Abler changes from nay to aye. All members having voted, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 36 ayes and 36 nays, the A3 amendment does pass, and the A3 amendment is adopted. I'm sorry, members. I had a long commute in today. Seeing we are currently working on some of the ag amendments, I'm calling, are there any additional ag amendments? Then we'll move on to the housing. Senator Herr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to take this moment to come in and thank Senator Westrom for including one of my provisions, the funding for emerging farmer for African American immigrants, and African American and emerging farmers. Senator Westrom has been very open-minded and working with me on urban ag over the years. I just went and FYI to the rest, Senator Westrom was aware of this, that we just completed the Growth Center just a few weeks ago, and I attended the grand opening, and that was appropriation that we worked on several years ago. This was Representative Phyllis Kahn's idea, and Representative Clark as well, and it lead down to it is in my district, so it put the responsibility on me to get it complete. So I'm glad that Senator Westrom has been open-minded in supporting urban agriculture and other provision. But today I want to speak in support of the provision that Senator Westrom had included in the Omnibus Act bill here. Everything seemed to be smooth and liking from my perspective, other than the $1 million. I'm sure people in the committee already discussed that in thorough sense. I had talked in the committee. I was a lead member in the Ag Committee a couple of years ago, and had talked at some point, educated folks in the committee that we have to fill the missing gap of shortage of farmers, and that missing gap is our emerging farmers, our immigrant farmers that are here to stay, and they are very productive. They are entrepreneurs, and let's not let them stay solely on farmers market farmers, but trying to attract them to the rural area and take the baton from perhaps generation of farmers, but the new generation decide to let go of their farming heritage. Pass the baton to the new Americans, the emerging farmer, this opportunity. So the provision that is in here with attached to Senate File 3841 is that opportunity to fill the gap. So thank you, Senator Westrom, for supporting me one more time. Again, this general bill, just the omnibus ag bill alone, seemed very appropriate to me, other than the $1 million to the white-tailed deer, although I'm a pro-opportunity, business opportunity person, so I will leave that alone. This doesn't include my part on the housing, but on the ag part, I would say my heartburn was very, very minimal on this. So thank you, Senator Westrom, one more time. And we still got a lot of work to do. We still got a lot of work to do in attracting opportunity or entrepreneur from the metro area to the rural area. I want to take this moment just to tell a little story about my community. There has already been influx twice in my community moving south. The first wave was happening in 2010, going south for chicken farming opportunity. And they did very well, and they're not coming back. And my sister is one of them. She's run a chicken farm. Then the second wave just happened recently. Within the last 2 years, folks moved down to Oklahoma for cannabis farming, for opportunity there. So I hope that when we put agriculture legislation in place on cannabis farming, make sure it's inclusive and not forgetting about the emerging farmers. So I'm just want to say that there's still a lot of work to do, especially for many entity or agency out there that trying to attract immigrant farmers to the rural. The AURI will need to be a little bit more progressive in working with my communities and immigrant communities. And so, lastly, again, thank you, Senator Westrom.
Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, I move to table the bill in front of us.
Senator Westrom moves to table the bill. All those in favor of laying the bill on the table signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion does prevail. The Senate file is on the table. House file is on the table. Senator Miller.
Mr. President, I move that for a brief recess to the call of the President. Keep an eye on your emails. And,
Senator Miller moves to...
Republicans will caucus upstairs, I guess, in room 12, or in 303. I move for a brief recess to the call of the President.
To that motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, motion does prevail. The Senate is in recess.